Hey there, I'm Andre, this is Cloud and Sec, and this is Microsoft news for Defender for the month of June 2024. Now, before I dive into what's been announced at May and June, I just want to address why I didn't release a video in May, because essentially I was away on leave, and I thought about giving myself some time to breathe out of that month. So this is a good reminder for you, right? Cybersecurity never stops, of course. There's always news and announcements and upcoming threats that we need to take a look at, but we are all part of teams and we must always take the time to take care of ourselves from once in a while. And that's what I decided to do in May. I went to see my family, made a travel, so that was awesome. Hopefully you get to do the same to yourself. Touch the grass, right? Make sure you go outside. Do something you like outside of work as well. But back to work, right? Or back to what's new at Microsoft Defender for the month of June. So out of the announcements for June, there has been the RSA conference in early May, and a lot of these announcements that we're seeing on screen right here by the product manager Heike Rieder are coming from RSA. Most notably, a few that I'm going to call out. Now, what's really important here, I'm just going to touch on the highlights, right? I'm not going to touch on everything. Some of them are only relevant to specific parts of the world, such as having your Defender data in a data center residing in Switzerland, for example. But what's really important that might pertain to you is the ability to create custom detections that include both Microsoft Sentinel and Defender XDR, all using one query using Custo Query Language, KQL. Now, these analytics rules will work on ingested data on Sentinel as well, which is beneficial to customers who are integrating and starting to integrate both of these solutions. There's also been announced a new optional perimeter time span for the Graph API. This was added and allows you to query your log analytics data for any look back time, not only for 30 days. So this part of it, though, is not yet documented, but will be added in the link that is provided in this announcement page, which you should definitely look at. This here is something that's been announced back in November for Microsoft at Microsoft Ignite, but also here, this is something that's been publicly available or limited preview at the moment. What's really important is a new experience is coming public preview for SOC optimization. Okay, so this is Microsoft Sentinel Blade or section, which allows you to understand how to better optimize or how to optimize your SOC operations, right? So this is giving you the necessary data for you to understand how you're ingesting data, what value are you getting from the data you're ingesting into Sentinel, which should be top of mind if you're optimizing your operations for defense and use cases. There are a few new shows and a few content that Microsoft has released. I will leave you to consume that at your own will. I'm not going to call them out right here. Next up is Microsoft Security Exposure Management. There is a new blog post that talks about how security initiatives can help you adopt zero trust based environments or zero trust based frameworks in your environment. Why that is relevant? It's because exposure management from Microsoft will allow you to get recommendations based on specific initiatives. So think from a cybersecurity leadership perspective when you are proposing a new initiative for the board, for example, and you're trying to recommend them to pursue a specific stream on your cybersecurity operations or cybersecurity program, for example, adopting zero trust. What are the steps that you need to take in your environment in order to improve your adoption of zero trust methodologies or architecture? Well, this initiative in exposure management will help you do that, right? It will highlight specific recommendations in the Microsoft suite that will help you adopt that particular initiative. This is just one of them, though, right? So the announcement is about zero trust as part of the security initiatives within exposure management, but exposure management will also allow you to have other lenses through your program, such as looking through lenses of ransomware. How should you configure an environment properly and prioritize in what configurations you should prioritize in order to harden your environment against specific threats such as ransomware, which is also called out in this document right here. And you should definitely have a look if you're looking at Microsoft Exposure Management there for you. For Microsoft security experts, there's been a lot of reports released, but really what's the big thing for security experts for Microsoft there is the expanded coverage of workloads. So up until June, or up until before June, actually, Defender for Cloud workloads weren't covered, but now this has been added to it, or Defender for Servers alerts have been added to that service offering alongside with everything in XDR. Now, Defender for Endpoint. This here is a big one, right? So particularly two things there for people that I talk to. Triage, right? So simplifying triage with new alert timeline. When you're looking at how Defender for Endpoint is sending you information, right? This right here is critical. Represent an attack or represent a potential malicious activity, right? So this is an alert timeline alerting you a potential ransomware or a ransomware which was prevented. This greatly simplifies the alert to you as an analyst. I can only say this is very appreciated, right? From a usability perspective, user simplification perspective, that's much needed, because it wasn't easy to explain an alert before that, and so this really helps really convey the message of why that alert is important and what really happened, that is really important from that alert perspective. Also, something else that's worth mentioning here: offline security intelligence available for Linux devices that need to pull information security or security information, security updates, right? Or think of signatures from a local device. So this is very good news there for customers utilizing Linux devices. For Defender for Identity, there's been a report here or a blog post to detect a specific vulnerability there. So have a look at that if you're hunting for that particular vulnerability. Now moving on to Defender for Cloud Apps. The big thing for Defender for Cloud Apps that was announced at RSA is the ability for Defender for Cloud Apps in public preview to provide in-browser protection in the Microsoft Edge for business. Okay, so why is this important? Well, Defender for Cloud Apps can already block you from downloading, block you from performing suspicious activity throughout the integration with Defender for Endpoint. However, when you don't have Defender for Endpoint and you only have Microsoft Edge for Business on a device, think of a bring your own device scenario, which you might not have rolled out Defender for Endpoint in that device, but your user has logged into their work profile on the Edge for Business, for example. Edge for Business will be able to interact with Defender for Cloud Apps through a particular tunnel, cloud tunnel, and it will allow you to apply some policies, some security policies on that browser in order to curb and mitigate potential data leakage. So that's really exciting there. Moving on to Defender for Office 365, well, this announcement here is really exciting, right? So automated responses to users via automated investigation and response is GA. What this feature does, essentially, it allows the platform to take in user feedback from emails. So imagine a user receive a phish email and they categorize that as a phishing or spam and so on and so forth, and you have an alert based on that email. The platform, after the user provides the feedback to the platform saying, hey, this is a phish, I should not be interacting with it. After the user does that, what the platform will do, this here is really what it does. And let me read it for you. This is GA already. Once this is enabled, 365 Defender for 365 will automatically respond to end-user submissions based on the investigation verdict and the configured settings. For example, if an organization has enabled the user feedback response for emails with no threats found, if a user reported a message as phish, it would trigger automated investigation response and begin an investigation on the user reported message. If that investigation concludes with no threats found and the organization had enabled the automatic feedback response for no threat found, then the end user who submitted the message would receive an email stating that there were no threats found on the submitted message. The message would resemble the below, but the body of the message and footers would contain the organization as put for review for the information, and this is what the user would receive in that particular there. So the investigation would be triggered based on that user feedback, and the user will get that for you. Now, in the blog post, there are other scenarios that they cover in order to exemplify what this feature will do. I highly recommend you have a look if you are managing Defender for Office 365 there. And lastly, there are a couple Microsoft security blogs that might be relevant to you. Have a look at them if you are dealing with any of these threats in your environment, of course. Other than that, really appreciate your time. Hopefully this series has been helpful to you. I have some exciting announcements to make in the coming month, so keep an eye out for this. All right, see you next time. Cheers.